Hello and welcome back. So today we are going to discuss on a new unit, that is structured coding techniques. So we'll see what are the coding techniques after designing we are going to implement here. So first we are looking on to what is coding. Okay. So coding is the process of transforming the design of a system into a computer language format. The coding phase of software development is concerned with software translating design specification into the source code. It is necessary to write source code and internal documentation so that conformance of the code to its specification can be easily verified. So coding is done by the coder or programmers who are independent people than the designers. So the goal is not to reduce the effort and cost of the coding phase, but to cut the cost of the later stage, that is, the cost of testing and maintenance can be significantly reduced with efficient coding. Now, we will move on to the goals of coding. Okay. To translate the design of a system into a computer language format. The first goal is to translate the design of system into a computer language format. This, as I have said earlier, coding is the process of transforming the design of a system into a computer language format, which can be executed by a computer and that performs tasks as specified by the design of operation during the design phase. So whatever we have designed in the design phase is being executed as a computer program. Our next goal is to reduce the cost of later phases. I already said the cost of testing and maintenance can be significantly reduced with the efficient coding techniques. Third goal is to making the program more readable. So actually the program should be easy to read and understand. It increases cost and code understanding, having readability and understandability as clear objective of the coding activity. So it can help in producing more maintainable software because when the program becomes more readable and understandable only, however the programmers can maintain the software afterwards. So for implementing our design into code, we require a high-level functional language. So a programming language should have some characteristics which makes it a high-level functional language. So let's see what are the characteristics of a programming language. The following are the characteristics of programming language. First characteristic is readability. So a good high-level language will allow programs to be written in some methods that resemble a quite English description of the underlying functions. So in short, we can say that the coding may be done in an essentially self-documenting way. So it should be, since it should be highly understandable or readable, we have to resemble it a quite English description of the functions which we have specified in the design process. Our next characteristic is portability. So high-level languages, being virtually machine independent, should be easy to develop portable software. So not only it should be high-level language, it should be virtually machine independent so that portable software can be developed from that. Then we have generality. Here it says that most high-level languages allow the writing of a vast collection of programs. That is obvious, right? Most of the languages allows a wide variety of programs to be written in that. So thus, it relieves the programmer of the need to develop into an expert in many diverse languages. So it should be very general in use. Then we have the next one, that is brevity. Brevity means that language should have the ability to implement the algorithm with less amount of code. We have to implement the algorithm, whatever algorithm we have kept in the design phase, that should be implemented with a less amount of code, and programs in high-level languages are often significantly shorter than their low-level equivalents. Our next characteristic is error checking. Okay, A programmer is likely to make many errors in the development of a computer program. That we are also obvious, right? So many programming languages you have been studying, but you are likely to make many errors during the development of a computer program, and you study from the errors, right? So many high-level language invoke a lot of bugs. So checking both at compile time and runtime only, we will remove the errors. Then cost. The ultimate cost of a programming language is a task of many of its characteristics. Okay, then quick translation. It should permit quick translation. That is, if it is readable, then quick translation is also possible. Then efficiency. It should authorize the creation of an efficient object code. Then modularity, that is desirable that programs can be developed in the language as several separately compiled modules with appropriate structure for ensuring self-consistency among these modules. So all these programs will be divided into modules, but these modules will be having an appropriate structure for ensuring the self-consistency. Then it should be widely available. So language should be widely available, and it should be feasible to provide translators for all the major machines in all the primary operating systems. So these are the characteristics of a programming language: readability, portability, generality, brevity, error checking, cost, quick translation, efficiency, modularity, and widely available. Now we have some coding. So these are the characteristics of programming languages in a quick short view. Then we have some coding standards: indentation, inline comments, use of global, structured programming, naming conventions, errors, and exception handling. We'll see all these in detail. Coding standards: first is indentation. Proper and consistent indentation is essential in producing easy to read and maintainable programs. So indentation should be used to emphasize the body of a control structure, such as a loop or a select statement, where we give curly braces and all. Then emphasize the body of a conditional statement. Then emphasize the new scope block. Okay. Then after indentation, we have inline comments. Inline comments analyze the functioning of the subroutine or key aspects of the algorithm shall be frequently used. Then rules for limiting the use of global. Here these rules file what types of data can be declared global and what cannot. Okay. Then we have structured programming. Structured or modular programming methods shall be used. That is, go-to statements shall not be used, as they lead to spaghetti code, which is hard to read and maintain, except as outlined line in the Fortran standards and guidelines. See, actually, when we use a go-to statement, means we have to go to where the block of code is there, and we have to come back to the block which we have left behind. So it is difficult to maintain such a process. So it is better to avoid go-to statements. Then naming conventions for global variables, local variables, and constant identifiers. So here we have a possible naming convention that can be that global variable names always begin with a capital letter, and local variable names are made of small letters, and constant names are always capital letters, which you have already studied in the various programming languages in your previous semesters. These are the coding standards. Then we have error return conventions and exception handling system. Here, different functions in a program report the way error conditions are handled should be standard within an organization. For example, different tasks where encountering an error condition should either return a 1 or 0 consistently. So that is, we have set in a flag to check whether an error is returned or not. Okay. Then we have some coding guidelines. These are the coding guidelines. There are 7 coding guidelines: line length, spacing, code is well documented, length not exceed 10 source lines, don't use go-to statement, inline comments, and error messages. See here, general coding guidelines provide the programmer with a set of the best methods which can be used to make programs more comfortable to read and maintain. So we have to maintain some representative coding guidelines which have been recommended by many of the software development organizations. As the first one is line length. It is considered a good practice to keep the length of source code lines at or below 80 characters. So lines longer than this may not be visible properly on some terminals and tools. Some printers will truncate lines longer than 80 columns. If it is longer than 80 columns, some printers will avoid that. So it is better to keep the code line limit into an 80 character, below 80 character if possible. Then we have spacing. The appropriate use of spaces within a line of code can improve readability. For example, while we are writing like this, that is cost equal to price plus price into sales underscore tax. This, when looking at a glance, it is very tough to follow, right? So this can be again written by implementing a space which could be easily captured by our vision. Then we have the code should be well documented. As a rule of thumb, there must be at least one comment line on the average for every 3 source lines. So we should give comment lines wherever and whenever it is necessary. And the length of any function should not exceed 10 source lines. Okay, a function when it is given, it should not exceed more than 10 source lines. So a very lengthy function is generally very difficult to understand as it possibly carries out many various functions. For the same reason, lengthy functions are possible to have a disproportionately larger number of bugs. Do not use go-to statements that we already discussed, right? And inline comments promote readability. Then we have error messages. Error handling is an essential aspect of computer programming. This does not only include adding the necessary logic to test for and handle errors, but also involves making error messages meaningful. So we have to give error messages whenever and wherever it is necessary so that we can understand where the test has been done and where the logic has been gone wrong. So these are the proper guidelines and standards for coding. Hope you understood today's topic. Thank you.